Hello, good morning, Texas. Good morning, Louisiana. Good morning, David Porter. How are you?
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Bruce. We are rocking and rolling here. It's a beautiful day and looking forward to all of these headlines. I mean, gold is up, and that's what I'm talking about because I'm involved with at costmetals.com with the referral. The enrollment code is clubs. You can get the best price on gold and silver that you'll see across the US and probably the world. So
At
we have
cost.
at cost. We've had
At cost
frequent
metal.
buyers, frequent buyers and experts see our rates, and they enrolled as well, agreeing
Yes.
that is the best price by far, 10%, sometimes 20% better prices than what they were buying before.
Well, it is a fun thing, buying gold and silver, platinum, palladium. Very interesting there, and that is at cost metals at costmetals.com. Use referral code clubs, or just go to atcostmetals.club. And that should forward you there, but there's something funny about the link. If you click it from somewhere, it goes right there. But otherwise, it's can be funny sometimes. So yeah, pretty
And
interesting day as well. I had a great meeting or a great show with our main man Fly Mackey. Fly Mackey is the founder, the man behind the Smart Money Culture TV network, which is the network that we're on right now on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana. And of course, we're expanding big. We had some big dogs watching. I think we had the big dogs watching. And that's pretty interesting. We're going into LA, we're going into Tampa, we're going into Miami, and some other places too that he told me, but I don't remember.
speaking of, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of big dogs, we have Shib Whiff Hat making moves across the space. You see people putting on their hats, these funny hats, and they had a nice speaker session on X last night, and we're pretty excited about this project.
Shib Whiff Hat, our friends over at Shib Whiff Hat, they are, it's a fun, it's one of those fun meme tokens. And sometimes you can get involved in these things and they really, really just go. We did one at the beginning of the last bull run, and I guess one of the last bull runs, and we got in and we promoted the heck out of it and everything else. And I don't know, I mean, how many X's we went, but it was pretty nice setup. So that can be fun as well. We have a lot going down. So Bitcoin took a little bit of a dive over the evening, which is pretty normal. I mean, it's high now. Normally, actually, if we go to historically, what happens during this time of 60 days, and I've talked about it a couple of times, 60 days from before the halving and then up to the halving, we normally have a 20 to 40% pullback, which I know a lot of people would be pretty happy about that, to be honest. Now,
Yeah,
same time, a lot of people are not happy about it. They're getting
I told you
liquidated right and left.
the other
Yeah.
day, my phone starts ringing because we're at all-time highs. Oh, how do I buy this Bitcoin again? I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. The
Never
ultimate
fails.
the greed chart is over 90. It's not the time, but it's also what I can't predict the future. It might go to 100. I'm like, well, creep in there, but you might not be happy over the next few weeks.
Yeah, pretty easily, right? It could easily go to 100. As we were talking about yesterday, we could 10x. But at the same time, guys, these are highly speculative markets. They are highly speculative, and these big guys, they don't lose, but that also means they don't lose. So if they want to take the money and hold it at a certain time and then go back, of course they can do things like that too. So it is these are highly speculative markets. I do think that we're in for some big moves, and one of the things I talked about again last night was, of course, this the fact that Bitcoin is so valuable. One of the reasons why it is so valuable is because it is it's something new to the world. And these older blockchains, not the new ones really. The new ones are completely controllable. They're just like a central bank. They can be frozen and stopped and all these other things. But Bitcoin Bitcoin, Litecoin, Global Boost. There's a few other ones that have survived, from the early days, the original blockchains that are still this way, and that they can't be corrupted, they can't be frozen, they can't be taken by court order, and all that stuff. Something very, very special in the world that the world has never had, and that's one of the reasons why it is going so high. But it's a crazy market, and it's a crazy time. So stocks right now are a bit tepid. The Dow futures were up slightly. Asian stock markets were kind of down overall. I can pull up the Hong Kong stock exchange here, and then gold is up a little bit. Let me just kind of run through this stuff a little bit here as we're going through this right here. This is the Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Hong Kong Stock Exchange, down again. Second day it's been down. It was down about the same yesterday, I think. That's the 1 day. 5 days was 5 day. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. They did a lot of money printing over the last bit. China did. Oil, as you can see, is now sticky. I think it's going to stick. I think it's sticky above 80 now, guys, and you're going to feel that. We're going to feel that. Oil is up above 80 for the second day in a row. It closed above 80, closed well above 80. Little bit of pullback today. It could dip below it, but I still think it's been pushing that level. It's been pushing that level for quite a while now, and I kind of expect that to continue. And what that means for you is that your price of goods and services and everything is going to go up. Your inflation rate is going to get worse. So these are the Asian stock markets, just to kind of give you an idea. Now, this doesn't mean that the U.S. stock markets are going to be down, but a lot of times it's a good indicator. You have a couple of different ones here. Shanghai, Shenzhen, the Malaysian market are green. Otherwise, though, pretty red. And let's look at the Dow futures. I was kind of watching them because they were kind of jumping around. That's about where it was. Gold's up, silver's up. Silver has been performing pretty well. Let me just look at the NASDAQ futures here real quick. NASDAQ futures. Yeah, kind of flat, just up slightly. Hard to say. We have a lot of wrangling going on in the U.S., and I did mention that in my thing here. This is
who had her life ahead of her.
When you talk about America's needs, that job done, we're very optimistic.
So this is from their meeting,
saying that the priority is Ukraine. Watch this.
The meeting on Ukraine was one of the most intense I have ever encountered in my many meetings in the Oval Office. The overwhelming sentiment in that meeting is we got to do Ukraine now. And there are other issues, including border, which we should address, but not now. We said to the speaker, get it done. I told him this is one of the moments, I said, I've been around here a long time. It's maybe 4 or 5 times that history is looking over your shoulder. And if you don't do the right thing, whatever the immediate politics are, you will regret it.
Now, I play that not so much because, of course, they both tried to come out and do their spin on it. But the spin that Speaker Johnson is trying to make is that we're going to loan the money. So he's just flat out lying to everybody. And it's just a flat out lie, guys. There is no chance, 0 chance, 100% zero that Ukraine will ever pay that money back. Now, whether you want to say we should send it to them or not, it's another story. But to say that they're ever going to pay it back is a lie. And everybody knows it. You should know this. And even even the world after World War II, all of these countries were supposed to pay us back. Do you know that only one country actually ever paid us back? It was it was the Dutch, I think, or somebody. I can't remember. One country, might have been Finland. I'm not sure. As I said, Dutch. I don't think that was it. But so nobody else ever paid us back. So this, it's just a scam. That's a scam. Telling everybody, no, it's fine. wink, wink, and we're going to, send a bunch of armaments over there. Meanwhile, we have multiple attacks going on. Basically, these borders, 2 borders on Russia are now being called war zones, and another oil refinery was attacked in Russia as well. So definitely, and then nobody's really talking about Israel kind of at the moment. It's like, okay, we're just not going to talk about what's going on over there. Netanyahu is kind of under fire. Of course, it's a dicey situation over there. You have tens of thousands dead, I think pretty much by anybody's report. Just absolutely horrible situation over there. So that's that's going to continue, I guess, unfortunately. But we should be able to, what they did too with this TikTok ban, and we're going to commercial on Smart Money Culture TV. We're going to be back on the other side of the commercial with our main man, Matt Dixon, with a look at the markets. So I know we're going to go to commercial here in just a second. I'm going to keep talking, but we'll go to commercial and we'll be back at right after the commercial with Matt Dixon. So, and then you talk about the TikTok ban, and the TikTok ban is just, that's a bunch of nonsense too. You see, they're already circling, the Munchkin and his crew, former Treasury Secretary, and his crew, his band, are already circling that they're going to buy it. It's just a forced sale, guys. It's and not only that, but it's a forced sale, but it's also it's bad because they're going to use it to come after X. Mark my words, they are going to use this to come after X. And I wanted to actually read you just a little bit about what people were saying about it, and then I'll do this while we're on break, and then we'll cut over to Matt here. But I wanted to read this. I think it's important. So what is in the TikTok bill? Here's a summary of the provisions in the bill. The bill prohibits foreign adversaries controlled applications, end quote, from operating in the U.S. The prohibition applies not just to the app itself, but to the app stores and the internet hosting providers. Effectively, the bill creates a new kill switch, preventing the distribution of prohibited apps or websites on the app store or hosting level. So what is a foreign adversary controlled application? Which is the acronym is FACA, F-A-C-A, Foreign Adversary Controlled Application. First, any website, desktop app, mobile app, or VR app operated by ByteDance or TikTok is FACA. That's what they're saying. Second, almost any social content engaging sharing website, desktop app, mobile app, or virtual reality app that has more than 1 million monthly active users can be a FACA if 2 conditions are met. And that's a FACA is the Foreign Adversary Controlled Application. First, these are the conditions. If it is controlled by a foreign adversary, again in quotes. Second, if the president determines it to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States. And we can continue reading, but like if the warning bells aren't going off in your head by now, then you need to step back. Okay, so right now we have a guy in as president, and I know a lot of people support the guy, I suppose, but I mean, it's just like Trump. I supported Trump. I didn't agree with everything he did. So, you probably don't agree with everything that he's doing, or you see some of the things. And do we really want to put ourselves in a situation, in this dictatorial situation where, you see these guys. I mean, whether you want to talk about Trump taking documents to Mar-a-Lago or Biden taking documents to Delaware, they all do what they want to do. Okay. So now we're going to put the president in a situation where he can just decide this one is an adversarial. This one's a threat.
Or Hillary bleaching her hard drive.
You mean like with cloth? No, that was the. Did you wipe the hard drive? Did you wipe the hard drive? Did you wipe? What you mean like with the cloth? That was the money. That was the money shot right there. So just to go over because people, a lot of people, even the people that are following me and they're watching on our stream here, they don't know about this. They don't understand really that this bill is so bad, and they don't understand how Speaker Johnson would put something like this through, because why would he do that? And the reason is he was elected as Speaker of the House by both parties in a unanimous vote. So he's not working for you, he's working for them. Okay. So any app with over 1 million monthly active users can easily be said if it is controlled by the foreign adversary, and if the president determines it to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States. So think about even Obama and what they were doing during, and what the intelligence agencies were doing even when Trump was in office with Twitter. Think about it. So did they deem Twitter to be a national security threat? Well, they obviously did. That's why they went to such lengths in order to stop everybody talking on it. So I'm going to talk about this. I think we're back on Smart Money Culture TV. We'll talk some more about this after we come back. We're not quite back. Sorry, on from commercials there. So, but let's bring on Matt. We'll have a little warm up here, and then I'll continue with the TikTok stuff. Sir Matt, how are you, brother?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning. Morning, David. Morning, Bruce.
Hello.
Good morning. Are you all right? Is your arm okay? Do you have a wrap on your arm?
No, that's just my T-shirt.
Oh, he's got a fancy shirt on. Okay.
Yeah.
I've
got to put you right, Bruce. I've got to put you right. You said the Brits don't pay their debts.
Yeah.
The Brits paid back their debts. The Brits borrowed 4.33 billion back in 1945. It wasn't actually during the war, it was a post-war borrowing from the US. 4.33 billion at a rate of 2%. And it took 61 years to pay off that debt. So it was finally paid off in 2006.
Well, I stand corrected. So the Brits and the Finnish, I think it's the Finnish, they paid off their debts, but nobody else did.
And the Canadians.
And the Canadians, well, man, I'm wrong all over the place here. You're telling me that those Canucks paid us back?
It seems so, yeah. I think maybe even the Brits paid it for them. I don't know.
That's probably more like it.
They paid in maple syrup.
That's
I love Canada. I really do. It's a wonderful place, but they're Canadians. They're Canadian.
Yeah.
They're not very good at hockey.
They're very good at hockey. They are very good. Want to welcome everybody back on Smart Money Culture TV. We are happy to be here. We have the great Matt Dixon with us. He's going to give us a tour of the markets here. Nice little nosedive we had. I mean, I know it liquidated a lot of the people, so I don't want to talk, let's say nice, I guess, but certainly a nosedive. And that, of course, as it goes, has a effect on the total markets in Bitcoin and everything.
Yeah, as you were just saying before, Bruce, about the volatility in the markets. I mean, clearly a lot of people got liquidated, and we're looking at those tokens, which the ones that really pumped. You talked about dog with hat and shib with hat.
Yep.
So they're the ones. If you can see my screen, bottom right here, I'm just looking. At the
not
numbers.
yet. I'll pull it up. I'm gonna add you to the. There we go. Now you're on. Yep.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the numbers on the right-hand side of the screen. So I've got a whole spectrum of assets, crypto assets, mainly, well, not all crypto, but assets anyway, on the right-hand side of the screen. And you got dog with hat on the bottom one there, which is today is down 6.8%. And you got shib with hat. And these are just meme coins, basically. There's nothing behind them, but they've done really well. A lot of people made a lot of money out of them, but shib with hat is down 19% today, which is more than the rest of the market. It just shows how speculative these things are. And they're just basically for a bit of a gamble, a bit of fun as far as I'm concerned. It's quite interesting as we look up those assets, before I go into any charts, just to look, there have been losses pretty much across the board. Even oil lost a bit, as you said, but it's still currently holding above that support line, which is around the $80. So let's see where that goes. Dollar index, actually, it rose yesterday because it's 102 something before, wasn't it? It's 103.33 right now. So dollar index strengthened yesterday, but today it's pretty well flat. I mean, down 0.03%. So virtually flat on dollar index. We see gold picked up reasonably nicely, and we'll look into these charts in a moment. But gold has picked up quite well, and that's because there is still very much the threat of inflation. I mean, just on a side issue, Japan, the Bank of Japan, I think it's Tuesday. I think they're doing their rate decision. I think it's Tuesday. They're looking to raise rates. Have you any idea, Bruce or David, what they're raising rates to?
Bank of Japan.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I
planning
don't
to raise...
exactly know. I know that they've basically been negative, or they've been like,
exactly,
which we were as well for a long time. We did that in the U.S. and it's actually kind of an interesting situation. They're putting more satellites for themselves up in space. They're trying to do some more stuff. I mean, basically, they have, I don't know. It's an interesting situation, our relationship with Japan, the U.S. relationship with Japan.
Yeah, I mean, Japan, they've actually got serious inflation issues, very, very
serious inflation issues.
And they've even got wage rises now for some of the big employers there, and the big employers over 5%, and yet they're raising rates to 0. So as you said, they're negative right now, and they're looking, most likely, the expectation is they're going to raise them to 0. So, you'd wonder how serious they are about tackling this inflation, which appears to be really getting out of hand. The problem is Japan has suffered deflation for so many, many, many years, decades. They're in a situation of deflation. And so they're really afraid of this, getting back into this deflationary spiral. And this is why I think they're tolerating some inflation. But also it's a big problem. If they do raise rates, then actually capital will flow out to the US. And it's in everybody's interest, actually, to keep this vehicle on the road, the US. And that's what they're trying to do, keep things moving, at least until the election anyway. That's for the US, I guess, themselves. But elsewhere, I mean, everybody is dependent. Everyone in the world is really very much dependent on the US economy. The US is the big consumer of the world. Yes, others are catching up, but the US is the big consumer. And so they want the US economy to stay on track. And that's why you'll find that they, in Japan, aren't wanting to raise rates and pull capital away from the US. They don't want to cause problems. They're looking at other ways. They're manipulating the bond yield curve and so on. So just moving up, as I say, we've got gold pushing higher, 0.42 now. It's pushed up even whilst we've been watching. And that's because of the threat of inflation. Out of all the cryptos, believe it or not, the biggest gainer is actually eBay, which is up 3.5%.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it has been amazing. It's actually up 600% since last September. So obviously news is beginning to get out, the fact these big upgrades are coming out in September. So definitely, I think, one to watch. The S&P had a big down day yesterday. In fact, we'll probably start clicking into the charts just to show where we're at. So with the S&P 500, you can see that we probably we may push even higher again to finish off this move to the upside. I suspect we probably will push higher. So we may get some recovery from what's happened in the crypto markets, but I think we're at or near the top because there are these real inflation worries beginning to come to the fore now. The fact that CPI in the US was way above target, really, and that we've got this Fed meeting coming up on the 20th. So it's now how many days away? It's a week away, basically, less than a week away. So, that's going to be potentially, it's a big event, put it that way. So even though they're unlikely to raise rates, even lower rates, they're unlikely to lower rates. In fact, there is actually, a possibility they could raise rates with the way things are going on inflation. But the likelihood is nothing will happen on rates. But what is really important is what does the Fed chair say in the press conference later on, and in his statement. He has to be worried about inflation. There's got to be worry, and that's actually what's affecting the markets. And crypto is not immune. People like to think crypto is going to go to the moon and whatever. It is not immune. It is still a risk asset. Even Bitcoin is still currently a risk asset. That may change in the future, and Bitcoin is beginning to take on some attributes of that safe haven. But for now, it's still seen as a risk asset. And just like the rest, Bitcoin currently down 5% so far today. along pretty much with most of the crypto assets. Ethereum down 4.8%. So if we just click into Bitcoin and see where we're at, you can see we've had a bit of a pullback, but you can see overall we've had such a solid rise in the crypto market, in Bitcoin, especially since the ETF approval. You can see this massive rise. And if we go back to where the ETF was approved, we can see the massive consistent rise. So the pullback that we had overnight was actually nothing really out of context, and we could easily push up and recover and push to new highs yet again. And because there's so much money coming into Bitcoin via the ETF, and as I say, it's still got some of these characteristics of being a safe haven, like gold, an inflation safe haven, among other things, then what's happened overnight? A lot of people really panicked. A lot of people got liquidated, and they get liquidated because of greed, because they're over leveraged. And we looked yesterday at fear and greed. So yesterday, well, we looked a few days ago, the fear and greed was, I think, at 81. Yesterday, I think it was at 80. If I remember right, it was 88. I'd have to check. It was very, very high, extreme greed. And today it's fallen to 83. So there's still in a situation of extreme greed in the market. And so this market has to be vulnerable at any times you see that the market in that position of extreme greed. It means that people are still heavily leveraged. If they're feeling greedy, they want to leverage because they're hungry for gains in this market. Right now, they're thinking it can really only go one way. And it just depends on your leverage. I mean, if we look at that price, the price was 73.7 or something, and it dropped to 65. So it dropped about 10%. Now, a lot of people think that 10x leverage isn't a great deal. Some platforms, a lot of platforms offer 100 times leverage. Some platforms offer up to 1,000 times leverage. But those that offer 100 times leverage, a lot of retailers think, 10 times isn't too extreme, and they do 10 times leverage. And when the market's moving like this in upward fashion, it's amazing. 10x leverage, and you're moving up in big percentages, you can double, triple your money. But then if you're 10x leverage to the long side,
a 10% move at 10x to 100%.
Absolutely, wiped out completely. So a lot of people got liquidated, as you say.
Or the other way around. Yeah, of course. That's what I was saying. That's why the fear, the greed gets in.
Yeah, and the problem is, when the market's going up, if you're in this market leveraged long, and you might quadruple your money. To be fair, you could be in there with $10,000. You could have $40,000. But then, when the market then, what people tend to do, particularly retailers tend to do, is then max out on their leverage and look for a continuation of that. And that happens for a time. But we got a liquidation event here. You can see just back on the chart here, back in early March, 5th of March. We got a liquidation event. Again, a lot of people got completely liquidated. So all of those hard-earned gains were completely lost. And then we had another rise, and people start to get overly greedy, as we saw from the greed and fear index, or fear and greed index. And again, another liquidation event last night. And, people might be jumping in right now, but there's no saying this correction's over. And this is why leverage is really, can be extremely dangerous. Even whilst we've been watching, the markets have gone down a little bit. Bitcoin was toying, it's just under 5%. It's now down 5.3%. Ethereum was 4 point something, now down. XRP now down 6.86%.
Okay, I found this on the web for quite something that's down.
That's strange.
It's always listening, Matt.
It is. I mean, I think you said that, haven't you? Big Brother's always listening in.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
amazing,
and making profiles of us. They know what we're going to buy before we buy it.
Yeah. And again, it's important just to see in context these liquidation events. We had it again with Ethereum back on the 5th of March. And again, last night we had another liquidation event. But in context, it's nothing absolutely major. So as long as you're not over leveraged, and as long as the markets continue to go up long term, you're fine. But at some point, we will get a meaningful correction. This is a reasonably modest correction. 10% on crypto is actually quite modest. But at some point, we will get a meaningful correction. And if we go back to I won't flip back now, but if we went back to the S&P 500, there is real potential for up to 25% correction because the economic backdrop is not that healthy. Yes, they're going to try to keep things moving in a positive direction, certainly until the election. And that's why they're printing so much money. That's why they're spending so much money. We covered all that in days past, and particularly yesterday, where they're spending on arms money for abroad, which is obviously arms manufacture and so on. They're spending internally on construction, massive construction spending, hundreds of billions of dollars, just to keep the economy bubbling away, looking positive, keep the jobs figures good. But we know, looking at those long-term charts, that the employment is about ready to turn around and employment is starting to rise. When that happens, that's just the time that recession kicks in, and this is initially it's going to be very, very bad for risk assets. I'll jump over XRP. Well, actually, we'll look momentarily, but again,
it always returns. I thought about this when it pumped up the 20%. I was like, yeah, it'll be. They always return. It doesn't mean. I mean, you look at the chart. Yes, it's going up, but when it has a big pump, it almost always goes all the way back down to the beginning of that pump. Almost never fails.
At least we can say that on this time frame, at least we're seeing higher highs and higher lows.
Yes.
So even the pullback we had last night is actually a higher low than the previous one, and the previous one, and the previous one, and so on, all the way back. So at the moment, it's still holding in an uptrend. So that's kind of positive, and we could easily see this rebound and go much, much higher for XRP. Litecoin was a really interesting one. Let's see what happens, because we had this one, and again, I think David was on this one.
David's
looking
long.
at Litecoin.
Unless he got out.
So we had the triangle. I said out of the triangle because it's an X wave triangle. We expect ABC higher for the Y wave. That's exactly what we saw. The A, the B, and the C higher, completing a larger Y wave. And then pretty much on Q, it's turned down quite sharply. It remains to be seen. I mean, to be honest, I would actually expect, yes, we're going to get some correction higher, but I would actually expect that we're probably going to see some more downside. So I think today may be a bit of a day of recovery in the markets overall, maybe. But I still think looking at Litecoin alone as a proxy or as a kind of correlated asset across the markets, I think we might see some more downside. And remember what I said yesterday, Solana always goes up more than the other assets and goes down less than the other assets. So just look at the losses across the assets. 9%, 7%, 4%, 15%, 6%, and so on. You see Solana down 3%. So not only does it go up more than the other assets, it goes down less than the other assets. So you can compare it with virtually all other assets. And actually, in this downturn we've seen, it's gone down less. So I do think Solana, when you're doing comparative analysis, Solana is a great asset because it does really tend to go down less than other assets and go up more. So if we see a sizable pullback, then Solana might be an interesting one on a comparative basis. And you can actually trade cryptos against other cryptos, and you can make potential gains in that way as well. So that's really interesting. I would encourage people to look at that. You can basically trade Solana against something like Litecoin, for example. You can find those pairs. And when Litecoin goes up, it actually tends to go up less in general, less than the rest of the market. When it goes down more than the rest of the market. So it's exactly the opposite of Solana. So that's a really good currency pair. If you can find it on any of the exchanges, that particular pairing, or you can even manufacture the pairing yourself, looking at some cross rates, then that's a really interesting one to look at.
Solana Litecoin.
Solana Litecoin, yeah. So as I say, if Solana is going up, I mean, as long as you can determine the overall direction of the market, I mean, you can make some really good gains back into. And you've got somewhat of a hedge because they tend to move in somewhat of the same direction. It's just, as I say, in the upward direction, Solana goes more. In the downward direction, Litecoin goes more. So it's quite an interesting pair to look at. Even the AI tokens took a battering yesterday. So Injective is one of those. It's down 10% right now, 10.7% basically. That's one of those attractive AI tokens. I'm just looking for any others. There are other AI tokens. Obviously, eBay is an AI token yet to really show its worth, but I think it will do. And I was looking across the board.
It has before. I was doing a little bit of research of some of the stuff we used to do, and it has before. I'm confident it will again. eVay.io. Make sure to check them out. Fly Mackey was as well talking about eVay, not a lot, but about eVay on the show after the one I joined him on last night. He says he uses it every day.
Yeah, it was really interesting, actually. I was looking at the platform. I could just pull it up very quickly. Where are we now? Solana was actually shown as a negative here. This down movement here was the last movement down in the ratings. That actually happened before the sell-off happened. And I was actually questioning this with our developer. I said, look, Solana is actually showing a sell. How can that be? Because everything's looking so bright. But we can only go with what the rating says, and it's based on AI technology and efficient frontier technology. It's amazing technology, massive computing power to deliver these ratings. And lo and behold, the negative rating came out just before the actual fall in price. So it was really predicted. So there's been, a substantial fall. It's a 180 something this morning. It's now 170. So quite a decent fall there in Solana. It's well predictive. And even the top rated assets at the moment, they're showing negative. So these actually switched to negative before most of the fall. So it is a good, really good ratings platform. So what with all the upgrades coming through, as I say, some big upgrades coming through in April. Well, actually at the end of March. So we're only 2 weeks away, basically, from these big upgrades. But there's also tokenomics upgrades, utility upgrades. There's a new app coming out. There's new ratings technology with Efficient Frontier. Everything's really just going to hit the road in April, and even a relaunch of an upgraded token, basically. So it's all looking really good. So I think it's one worth looking at. Again, never put all your eggs in one basket, but it's worth having a look and
amazing.
Possibly taking a punt if you have some spare money, because as I say, it's done 600% since September. And there's real potential for it to do an awful lot more than that moving forward. I haven't looked at the chart today, but I will just quickly click on the chart, the eBay chart.
There you go.
We showed this the other day. There was bullish divergence. And you can look at this on any of the, and happily look at any asset and look for these bearish and bullish divergences. They're one of the more accurate leading indicators. And very few indicators are leading indicators. And this one, we saw a bullish divergence. So basically a signal here that price was about to go up. And we even featured this on the Impact Money show. The pump had just started, but we said, yes, there's bullish divergence. It should continue. And it really has continued. So even in the past few days, we've probably seen 30, 35% gain. And that's in the backdrop of the market absolutely collapsing, really. And eBay has gone up. And that's because these tokens, whilst they're based on largely on economic fundamentals, especially the big ones, the smaller, lesser known tokens like eBay is at the moment is actually based more on the internal attributes of what's going on. So what is happening with the actual, what is happening inside the ecosystem with the team, with developments, etc. And we know there's a lot of good things coming through, and that news is leaking out into the market, and that's what's causing price appreciation. So, and bear in mind, we're only available on PancakeSwap, and the price is still moving up. So people are coming in and buying on PancakeSwap, and it's great news. So awesome. I can see I'm already being called to another meeting, but it does look at the moment as though we could get a rebound from the correction we had last night. So just looking at BNB, which has been a really good performer recently, it's actually one of the least fallers. It's down 4% today. But we basically had what looks like an ABC movement down. So A down in those red candles, a choppy B up here, and then another red movement down to give us a C. So potentially we could be pushing up again to new highs on these. And that kind of aligns with the S&P here, that again, we can see here futures are actually pushing nicely higher. So let's hope it continues to push higher for now. But as I say, the signs are out there. The warning signs are flashing with the economy, with interest rates, with the Fed rate coming up, the Fed rate decision coming up. So thank you for having me. I'm really going to have to rush, unfortunately. I know I've got a meeting right now this minute. So thank you so much for having me. Great weekend, Bruce, David, everybody, all the listeners.
Always a pleasure, Matt.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend. Talk soon.
All the best.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Yes. Yeah, these AI tokens have really been they've really been taken off. You know, that is one of the things that is one of the areas that is so exciting about this space. It's one of the things that we always as well saw this intersection of blockchain and AI. As a matter of fact, our Washington Elite events that we would throw initially, they were the AI and the Washington Elite AI and Blockchain Summit.
Yes, and we even
used to,
did the
that
robotics edition.
We did the robotics edition. We did a lot of different editions. We did the smart city edition. That one was in we did that one in Vienna, right?
Yeah.
We did the bear market edition.
Yep, that was fun.
The bear market edition. Bitcoin had gone from the highs, and it was down to the lows. It was like $3,500 or whatever, the lowest of the lows, and we threw our event there, and it is something else. I'll tell you. I'm looking for one of these skits that we did, but I just came across a talk that I did, and I talked about one of the things that brings us together as a group is that we all support, no matter who you vote for, no matter what your area, what side of the field you fall on, or where in the world you are. We all believe in three things, and that's ownership, freedom, and privacy. And this was at the Harvard Club. Let me just pull up this clip here, and it's very short, but since I just saw it. Let me pull it up here. Boom. Here we go, right here.
It's an amazing community, and I talk about it around the world, and I'll say it again now. Guys, we are the most powerful community in the world. And once we really start realizing that, and we start voting together across borders and really pushing to make the things that we believe in, which are, of course, ownership of actually owning something, freedom, you know, I guess, you know, privacy, right? Privacy, what a concept, right? But we're all kind of on that same field, and whether you voted one way or you voted another way, we all kind of believe those things, and we're all around the world, guys. And so the Bitcoin or the blockchain community is something very, very special. And it's events like this even that make it more profound. It's an amazing community, and
I can't tell you. It's so funny. I can't tell you the number of times, and it's like doing math on a live broadcast when I'm on stage, and I always forget one of them. I'm like, there's three things that always bring us together, and I'm like, I mean it's like ingrained in my head. I think I've finally gotten over that. And I'm like, it's freedom, and it's privacy, and what's the third one? Or it's ownership, and it's freedom, and there's the third one, and I always am able to pull it up, but pretty funny. We've done a lot of stuff over the years, David. It really has been a heck of a run that we've had here, and I really wanted to find one of our old skits. Our skits are pretty funny. Yeah. You know what? I can pull it up here. I can pull it up from what is the line that we say, and when I throw the thing at you?
What? Oh, this it was like to promote the Washington Elite Conference.
I know.
The politicians.
These politicians wouldn't know sound money if it hit them in the head, right?
Yeah. I think we called them stupid.
That didn't work. Oh, that's too funny. All right, I won't spend too much time on it. We did a lot of these skits over the years, and it was one of the ways that we really got ourselves known in the space. We would go around the world with these things. Well, here's I can show this. Let me share my screen here. Wrong tab. Here we go. At stage. We'd go around the world and with these big. And we're live here in Times Square, having a great time promoting the Washington Elite Summit. I have my man Chappelle here. We just met, walked up about Bitcoin. So tell me a little bit about your experience with Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is actually awesome. Like, I watched it economically grow with me and Bitcoin Cash, and like every day I'm always checking it with with coffee, sitting there watching the stocks, investments, seeing if I should gain more or lose it.
There you go, man. I always tell people the volatility is how people make money. You know, people say hold, or hodl, hodl, as they say. I actually think you should sell and buy. That's kind of my strategy on it. So it sounds like you're Bitcoin Cash too. You know, shout out to Roger Veer. What other cryptos have you up?
Just that, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. All right, awesome. Well, I want you to come next weekend to DC for the Washington Elite AI and Blockchain Summit. It's $399. Includes your hotel. So awesome. Totally awesome. We'd love to see you.
That'd be super cool.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
See you soon.
I should be able to find one of our skits here. There's just a bunch of stuff. But here's one, but that one's not as funny. We really did some funny ones here. Of course, Litecoin official, they came and they're long supporters. Oh, shoots. Oh, man, this one's pretty funny, too. And a lot of stuff. We've done a lot of stuff over the years. Here we are in Taipei. Or something. No, that's Chinatown, D.C. Ha, 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 ha. All right, whatever. I'm not going to spend too much more time on it. I want to go back to TikTok, really, because I think that this is really important stuff that we're dealing with here, and we're playing with fire. And I don't know if we can stop it at this point since it's already passed the House. Let me just send this one over. So, but this is it's disguised as something that can help us. They're gonna force TikTok to sell to Munchkin. So I covered a little bit about it before, and actually it's hard for you guys to read, so I can just pull this down and talk about it as I read it. But so any social content sharing website with over 1 million users can qualify as a FACA, and a FACA is a foreign adversary controlled application. Okay, and so anybody can, if they decide, the users or whatever. So think about like what they did to Trump supporters. They said Trump supporters are Nazis and they're bad guys and they, all this stuff, right? So think about what can happen there. So obviously that's not foreign, but then what you have is the other qualificator here is if the president determines it to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States. What has Joe Biden been going around saying this whole time? That the MAGA Republicans are a significant threat to the United States.
Ooh. Unbelievable.
And that's in the bill. So the term controlled by a foreign adversary means the company is domiciled in, headquarters, or organized under the laws of a foreign country, i.e. China, Russia, Iran, or has to be a 20% ownership of the group in one of those countries. 20%, all right, is subject to the direction and control of the foreign person or entity, blah, blah, blah. This is just whatever. The last part of the provision, as you and I just saw, has gotten a lot of attention because the subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity. This is just some more stuff here. To make the determination of a national security threat under the act, the president must issue a public notice and report it to Congress. So again, this will be, I mean, look, I guess I have to say this may be used. This may be used to break up Twitter and make Elon Musk sell Twitter. X. And they already think that, they already think that, I mean, and then let's talk about other platforms like Gab. I mean, I know a lot of people are on Gab. Let's talk about Truth Social. I mean, I think that Joe Biden and his crew have made it abundantly clear that they think that Donald Trump is a threat to the United States. Let me just go over that wording one more time. And I'll pull it up so everybody can see it. I'll make it nice and big here. And I'll add this to the stage so you can read it too. Of course, all this stuff is available online. I actually reposted this. It's from David something or other. Did the groundwork for me. So if you look at number 3 right there, any social content sharing website, desktop app, mobile app, or virtual reality VR app that has more than 1 million active users that can be a FACA, then that's a foreign adversary controlled application if 2 conditions are met. 1, first, if it is controlled by the foreign adversary. 2nd, if the president determines it to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States. How many times has Joe Biden gone on TV and warned about the MAGA Republicans?
Right.
They're not even giving Donald Trump security intelligence briefings. They're refusing to give Donald Trump's intelligence briefings. So now as a former president, historically, you still get these intelligence briefings, but they cut Trump off after the election. And then now that he is the leading candidate, the nominee for the party, they historically start giving him intelligence briefings again, so that when he gets in office, he's not blindsided. And so that he knows what's going on. But the FBI has decided unilaterally, I'm sure the White House and everybody's in on it, that they're not going to give him these intelligence briefings. They're not going to give him all of it. Which, let's be honest, that's what they were doing during his time in office too. It appears that that's what they were doing in his time in office. They weren't telling him everything. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's that bill is an absolute mess. It's going to be used against us big time. It's going to be used against. It's shredding up your First Amendment rights, your right to free speech. It may be used to take down the one place where we are still able to talk freely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on X. So, you call your senators, everything else. I mean, it's just absolute mess. So I think we covered everything. Another great show. We'll be back in 5 hours on your TVs there, 11 a.m. local time in Texas. I'm signing off. 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back. See you soon.
Right. Stay tuned to stay lucrative.
It's an amazing community, and I talk about it around the world, and I'll say it again now, guys. We are the most powerful community in the world. Thank you, Bruce.
What we have here is a monetary revolution, and it's a peaceful revolution.
And it's not just crypto, but
everything.
Where if we don't free ourselves with a decentralized, permissionless blockchain, they're going to imprison us with a centralized, permissioned one. You know, we have to do something. And if we don't do something, they're doing things. But we're saying, oh, we're going to hodl. We got to give some of those things we're hodling to the politicians so they like us.
And it's been going on for over a decade
I want to build a future we're all inspired to live in. We understand the impact